somebody leaves you and comes back. It just left me to marry, and when the marriage got tougher and tougher, you are coming back. Foul through. Men marry with their eyes, whereas women, they marry with their ears. So when it comes to communication, those of you who are wives, be careful the way you dress in the night. When my wife and I go into our bed, the way she dress, her dress is trying to talk to me. As wives, you must know that your body belongs to Jesus and your own husband. It's a sin for you to sleep with a strange woman apart from your wife. If you say I'm not in the mood, what do you mean? If you are not in the mood, he is in the mood now. Give it to him. So you have about 4 billion women. You are supposed to marry one. The whole world is at your disposal. Don't make mistake. Why will you go for somebody's leftover? Don't go for leftover.
You are wondering, thinking and seeking answers. Are you single, married, or in a relationship? Do you have challenges bringing up your children in the godly way? Do you have challenges in your marriage? Then join us this very Saturday and every other Saturday at 7 p.m. on Family Matters, Peace Chapel, Facebook Live, and your family will take a good turn. Family Matters, redefining your homes.
Amazing word. God will not be defeated, and he cannot be defeated. Jesus went to church. He read the Bible and somebody preached to him. You are busy. Are you the president? Even the president goes to church. So when we meet in the house of God, we meet with divinity. That is when you come to church regularly and you have that kind of heart for Jesus, you can attract his presence. It doesn't matter about prevailing condition. God is my king and I'll be with him forever.
Amazing word with Bishop Brian Michael Adolfo now shows on Sunny TV every Saturday from 8:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. Do join us as we bring inspiring messages from God to elevate your spirit.
Welcome. This is Family Matters, and I'm privileged to host this program tonight. My name is Constance Olekibakete, and we are going to have a wonderful time on today's show of Family Matters. We want to remind you that Family Matters is a program that has been organized specially for the family to redefine our homes for glory. So wherever you are, kindly make sure to share this link or the video to a friend, a neighbor, a relative, a spouse, someone you hold dear to your heart, so that they will benefit from today's broadcast. So, when it comes to marriage, we all need to make a decision on who to marry. So we are going to talk about an interesting topic today, but before we go on, let's go for a quick break. When we come back, I'll introduce to you that topic and the guest. Thank you.
Amazing word. God will not be defeated, and he cannot be defeated. Jesus went to church. He read the Bible and somebody preached to him. You are busy. Are you the president? Even the president goes to church. So when we meet in the house of God, we meet with divinity. That is how when you come to church regularly and you have that kind of heart for Jesus, you can attract his presence. It doesn't matter about prevailing condition. God is my king and I'll be with him forever.
Amazing word with Bishop Brian Michael Adolfo now shows on Sunny TV every Saturday from 8:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. Do join us as we bring inspiring messages from God to elevate your spirit.
Thank you for staying tuned. This again is Family Matters. My name is Constance Olekibakete, your host for tonight's program. And for today, we are talking about marrying from your church, the pros and cons of marrying from your church. We have a lot of questions to bombard our guests with, and I'm sure they are also very ready. But before we proceed, I would like to remind you of all our social media handles. We are on Twitter, we are on Instagram, and it's both Peace Chapel. And then on Facebook too is Peace Chapel. YouTube is Peace Chapel International. Do well to log on, follow us, like the page, subscribe, and invite someone to join this wonderful family so that their lives will be changed and will be a blessing. So, Family Matters, Redefining Your Homes. I am honored to welcome to you our guest for today's program. And I'll introduce the lady first. She's a wonderful lady, been married, and has three children. Yes. And she's actually hosted Family Matters a couple of times, and she's a wonderful person. Let's invite Mrs. Vicentia Aqua. You're welcome to Family Matters.
Thank you.
So today you are the guest.
Yes.
All right, I hope you're ready.
Yes, please.
And how is your family?
We are doing great by His grace.
We thank God. All right, so she is also a shepherd and a member of Young Couples Ministry in this church. And she also does other things in the church. And we have a wonderful man too, our youth pastor, to be precise, in the person of Pastor Enoch Asari. You're welcome to Family Matters.
Thank you. I'm humbled to be on your set.
All right. How is wifey?
She's doing well.
We thank God. Thank you so much for honoring our invitation. We are very humbled and we are happy to have you. Okay, so before we move on, viewers, we want to thank you so much for tuning in on Family Matters. Do well to bring in your comments, your questions, your suggestions on the topic, which is marrying from your church, the pros and cons. Have you ever thought of that? What ideas come to mind whenever you hear these things? What do you think? What experiences do you have? You can share with us on our platform, on Peace Chapel, Facebook, the comment section below, or to 05545925690, 05545925690, and the questions will be read out and dealt with accordingly for you. Okay, so my wonderful people, marrying from your church, the pros and cons. Okay, so Pastor Enoch, what is your understanding on marriage and church?
Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Marriage, in a simple term, which God's grace is given to spouses in a community or in a society.
Wow.
And then if I'm to talk about the church, the church is a healthy place and a life-giving, and a life-giving group of people, or let me say assembly of believers. That's what I call a church. That's how I see a church to be. But the question is, married from what?
Your church.
The church.
I just asked marriage and the church.
Marriage
The explanation of marriage and the church.
Okay.
So we are okay. Thank you very much. Mrs. Aqua, do you have anything to add to marriage and the church?
When we talk of marriage, marriage is a union between a man and a woman,
Okay.
where they come to fulfill their primary purpose.
Okay.
That is companionship, rearing of children, then supporting each other to achieve your life calling.
Okay.
Then when we come to the church, it's a religious community.
Okay.
That's believers assembly. Then the doctrine is being taught. So in the church institution where the doctrine of marriage is being taught, you could see those who marry do grow well and they enjoy their marriage.
Okay. So we've explained marriage and the church. So if you are watching us, what do you know, what do you think about marriage and the church? The topic is marrying from the church, the pros and cons. Marrying from the church, the pros and cons. And our able guests have defined what the church and marriage is. Thank you so much So would you agree, let's go right into the topic. Would you agree that marrying from your church is the best? Okay, before that, let's establish that we say marrying from your church, sorry, we mean that marrying from the same house of God. Like when both couples are in the same church and they decide to marry. So we are looking at that, the pros and cons. So the question is, would you agree, Mrs. Aqua, that marrying from your church is the best? Yes or no?
It's a yes and a no.
Okay, you have to explain that for us.
A yes in the sense that when you both in the same church, when you marry, when it comes to spirituality, it becomes very easy.
Okay.
Because you know, in the week we have programs that are aligned, that I have to be at church from Monday to Friday. So the man is aware, the woman is aware. The doctrine is the same. When it comes to parenting, it becomes easy because where you're both fellowshipping, you all get the same food.
So from the same source?
Yes. So when it comes to children upbringing, it becomes easy. Then when it comes to spiritual growth of the church, most of the times when you look at our setup of churches, the women are more than the men. Okay. So if all the women should be going out, the church growth will decline. But where we all stay, the women stay, when they give birth, their children to stay.
They multiply.
So the church grows.
So your yes is explaining the pros, or the advantages of marrying
from the same church.
So can you give us the no aspect?
The no, sometimes when, let's say, a marriage is arranged, probably you are aging up, you're not getting the right person outside, then either your parents or the leadership feels, oh, this is a good girl or this is a good guy, let me arrange them for them to settle down. Probably you may not know more about the person. So if you say, oh, let me agree and marry the person, the person, when he or she comes to church, may have a different life. When the person goes out, may have a different life. Okay. If you look at what he or she practices in the church, and you don't read deep down outside what he or she does in the church,
you may be deceived.
Yes.
Okay. So that's the no aspect of whether you agree to the fact that marrying from the church is the best.
Yes.
So you've given yes and
no.
Thank you very much. So viewers, what do you think? I see a question from Bosheba Aidan. Pastor Aidan says, why do many guys prefer to marry outside the church? So this one is a straight shot. Since Pastor is here, you will answer. Why do many guys prefer to marry outside the church? Can you help us? Speak for the men.
I won't be able to speak for the many guys, but I'll be able to speak from my experience.
Okay.
When I was in school, before going to school, I made my mind that when I meet someone in school and she's the person I will marry. Okay. I was also in church, and then I told myself when I meet anybody in church that is the person, I will marry the person too. Okay. So I wasn't looking at only the church, but then I was looking at the agents, the areas where I could see my beloved. The areas where I could see my beloved. So the honest truth is, I was, although focusing on some ladies in the church, but I wasn't looking only at the ladies in the church.
So you had cast the net so wide.
I found myself in society where it's not only the church, but I'm also working with other people. I go to places, I also school, so I meet people.
You meet people.
Yes, so you don't only meet the ladies that come into your life only in the church. So you meet some in school, you meet some in your area where you do live.
So that's how come many guys do prefer marrying outside?
No, not how come. It depends on
the individual.
The individual.
Okay.
So in my case, I had few people in the church I was looking at. Maybe in the future, they could be, if I propose and they accept, But then when I was in school, I met somebody, and the person proved beyond that, oh, I could be that person I was looking for.
Although the person wasn't in your church.
I was looking for a God-fearing or a Christian woman to marry. When I met somebody, I looked at that thing first. Is she a God-fearing? She was. And so she also falls in the category of the ladies I find myself in the same church with. So it's not about, we normally focus outside, but then we do look at both. Just that it's God who works in his own mysterious ways.
Okay. Thank you very much. But regarding that, I've also heard a couple of, instances or examples where the guy's excuse for marrying from outside the church are that one, the ladies, they are familiar with the ladies, or that the ladies look down on them. Mrs. Akwa, have you ever heard of such an
there
instance?
is. Because there is always that familiarity. So you know the person, let's say you were all brought up from children's service.
Sunday school.
You have got to know the person. Probably you have
seen all the flaws and
of
all
the person. So sometimes it becomes very difficult when you compare them to other guys that outside. Then there are some people, frankly speaking, the crefe is just too much. You have to be yourself. When you go out there, you could meet somebody who it's real. But when you come to the church, they will pretend. Because he or she feels, if I show my real character, Rebecca said, must say. So why wouldn't I call into myself? Let me get the person, then I'll show myself.
Show your true colors.
But when you're out there, you know this is how the person is. So that is how come sometimes.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. So viewers, what are your thoughts on today's topic, marrying from the church, the pros and cons? So to Pastor Aidan, the representation of the men, saying that it's not like they only focus outside, but they cast their nets out and they look out for God-fearing women. And then when the ladies fall in their class, and then the qualities of whom they are looking for is outside, then there it goes. But if it's inside too, that's where it goes. Thank you so much. So, is it compulsory to marry from your native church? Is it compulsory? Pastor Enoch.
Compulsory, I would say no. But then to some extent, it will be yes. Let's say where you are considering the church growth, you can't impose marriage on people, but then it will be of a good importance. I mean, it will be good for the church to have marriages happening within the church. Because when there are marriages happening within the church, we get kids out of it. The kids grow to become members of the church. They also marry within the church. The church gradually grows.
There is multiplication.
It is very good to marry in the church,
but it's not compulsory.
But it's not compulsory. Let me use my points again, where we answered Pastor Eda.
Okay.
We were in a meeting with Bishop, and then he asked if you have any woman in your life, bring the person to me, or else should there be any mistake, it's up to you. I went home and I thought of it. I was like, my woman is not in the church. And then I was, as at that time, I was focusing on 3 ladies, but I had 1 woman.
Kai?
Yes.
You were focusing on 3 ladies?
Yes.
Where were they?
The 2 were in the church.
In the church? Oh.
And then the one
was outside.
The church. So I was like, my spiritual father has spoken, so why not? Let me go and tell him that I have somebody. In fact, I did not mention the ladies in the church here because I wasn't in any courtship or with them. I was only studying them. But I wasn't sure about the one outside too. So when I went to my father, he told me it gave me a revelation that the lady is a good person. Even before meeting the lady, he said the lady is a good person. Before meeting the lady, the spirit could testify that the lady is a good person. But when I was going, my prayer was, Father, you know that I'm not so sure about this woman.
Okay, so
when I go, help me through my father to
be able to
forget
be
this lady.
okay.
So I'll mention the ladies I was considering in the church.
To him.
But it did not happen.
Okay.
So you can't. It's kind of, you can't say it's compulsory.
It's not compulsory.
Yeah.
So Pastor Aidan says, so the outside person won eventually because your spiritual father saw beyond and gave you the confidence to go ahead with it. And thank God you are happily married. Okay, so Mrs. Aqua, was it your own choice to marry from outside or within the church?
Well, it wasn't my own choice. Before I got married, what I did was I prayed to God that this is what I want. So wherever the person is coming from, I will accept it if his word has said it.
So you weren't looking directly
in the church. I was
outside,
looking all around, wherever the person was coming from. And for my case, fortunately, when I met my man, he was not a member of our church.
Okay.
He was a member of another denomination.
Okay.
So I saw a problem. He doesn't worship frequently with where he was worshiping. And normally with marriage, there has to be a union, there has to be a harmony, there has to be that comfortability. So where I'm going to marry somebody who does not go to church often, how are the children going to be bred? Will they stay in the house for the mother to go to church
and come,
or they will follow the mother to the church? Then the father will say, next week,
yes,
my
church.
church.
So my church.
I saw it.
Division.
Yes, division. So I saw that as a problem. So with marriage, there's one thing that works perfectly. That is communication. So I saw that problem earlier before we settled down. So I spoke to him. I want you to fellowship with me. Are you okay? So I brought him to the church.
That was before marriage?
Before marriage.
Wow.
So we started coming to church, I think, almost a year
before you got
Yes,
married.
we got married. So it became very easy. So it wasn't my choice to marry outside, but
you still brought him in.
And
yes. The church growth still continued.
Yes.
So you still giving birth in the church
and
you've multiplied.
And it's still
that's powerful.
Yeah.
So you are a fisher of men.
Yes.
You fished into the church. Okay, Kofi Amon says because you can get time to monitor the person. That's why. Okay, so I think he's talking about the pros of marrying from your church, from within your church. You can monitor the person. Okay. Monitoring the person in what sense?
Monitoring the person in the sense is when you are all in the setup, you know my wife is part of the choir. Okay. So they come to practice this day. My man is part of the usher group. They come to church this day. So when your man is not out and you look at the time, for instance, me sitting here now, my husband knows I am in the premises. Yes. So that monitoring becomes easy because when you look at the time, you look at the dates, you know, oh, I can tell my wife is here, my husband is here. So it becomes easy. But when you all don't fellowship in the same ministry and you don't know the in and out of the ministry, it becomes very difficult and trust issues become a problem because you cannot really predict, really, is my wife or my husband at the place that he or she says he is or she is.
So that's a disadvantage.
So the monitoring becomes easy when you are all in the same ministry.
Okay, Pastor, you know.
Another thing I want to add to it is the children involved.
Okay.
Growing up, they will love to see their parents in the same church.
Together.
You know, when you worship in the same church, it gives you the opportunity to serve together.
Okay.
And then it also brings you together. So if you are in a different church and your spouse is also in a different church, then your children are torn between the two.
Yes.
So your children will be either they choose their mom, that's when they feel more related to their mom, they follow their mom, or they follow you when they feel more related to you. But who will know if the two churches involved have the same doctrine? So if the two churches involved are having different doctrine, then there's going to be
conflict.
Yeah.
So can we give some examples of different doctrines that can bring disagreements in marriages? So that is like a disadvantage on the side of marrying outside the church, right? What are some of the examples?
One of the examples is first the doctrine. When you look at Titus 2, reading the entire chapter, the scripture gives how the parents should behave, how the mothers should behave, how the grandmothers, the children, the men and the women should all behave. So there is a doctrine.
Okay.
And then let's say your church doctrine is focused on the gospel of Jesus Christ. You see? And then your wife is in a different, they are not speaking or focusing on Jesus or focusing on the truth or the gospel. So when your wife finds herself in such a church and she so believes in all that goes, that's how that's her faith. That's how she defines her faith. But you define your faith in the gospel of Christ.
Okay.
So in this case, there is there will be conflict in their house because you have different doctrines.
You share different faiths.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Mr. Essential.
With different doctrines, let's say the woman is fellowshipping with a church that does not stress wear things that belongs to men. Let's say wearing trousers, mini jeans, the shorts and stuff. Probably the man where he's fellowshipping, that is not
a problem.
Yes, but for you, the lady, that is a problem, and your man wants you to be in that. So you see, there's a conflict there.
There's a conflict. You can't make him happy. You can't please him.
Yes. Then there may be maybe your man's church. They don't have this. There are some churches. They always give a quanche.
Okay.
They will say, "Come and put salt in water. Do like this. Put sprinkle salt here. Do like that." Probably the other party, that is not it. So
they
you see, there's always conflict. But where you are all at the same place, you all follow that quanche. But I am following a quanche. Also, another thing.
And then even the issue of fasting.
Yes, some don't agree to that. When it comes to tithe, there are some churches who does not believe in tithing. So if probably you are doing it and the man is not doing it, and even you are preaching to the man, he or she sees what you are saying is rubbish. So you see, when you're all not from the same setup, it brings a problem. But even there are sometimes when you are all not from the same setup and the doctrines are the same, you are easy to follow.
Understand each other.
But where the doctrines are different,
there is conflict.
It's very difficult.
Thank you so much. Bosheba Aidan. Pastor Aidan says, I believe the most important thing is that you are marrying in the will of God. Numerically, marrying in the same church is a plus. But outside or inside the church, if the person is a true Christian, Christianity wins.
Yeah.
Wow, that's powerful. So God bless you so much for your contribution. So if you are watching us, we are talking about marrying from your church, the pros and cons, marrying from the church. What do you think? If you are given the opportunity to choose between marrying from your church and outside, what would it be? Sopho Aidan is saying, it's Christianity that wins at the end of the day. It's the will of God that matters. So let's take that. But it's still an issue, so we are deliberating on it. So what were some of the advices that were given from your pastors when you decided to marry outside the church? Did you have any fears at the beginning, Pastor Enoch?
No, apart from the earlier stage that I wasn't so sure.
So after you gained confidence, you had no fears anymore.
I did not have fear even when I wasn't so sure. But the honest truth is that I was thinking about what Pastor Aidan brought in.
Just said.
That if the person I'm marrying, is it because I want the person, or is because God has assigned that person for me to marry? So when that divine factor came into my father, I was excited.
Wow.
So I made no decision aside that again, because what I was seeking for was answered. So the fear did not even come in at all.
At all. You didn't bother about what friends will say. It didn't come to mind.
No.
Okay. Thank you very much. Chacha says, LP, for me, it's no, unless God says so, because I can't even think of dating someone from the church. Really? Why? I know people have their own reasons for not dating from the church. So I'll be glad if we can actually talk about why. The reason why you can't even fathom that I'm marrying from the church. What is it? Because we have wonderful people in the church. But you can't seem to see yourself marrying any of them. What is the issue? We want to be on the Christianity side, the will of God. But also we want to be a plus and cause growth in the church. So why is that the reason?
In most cases, the first thing to consider is familiarity.
Familiarity.
Yes. And then, like I said in Titus 2, as a lady, you are taught on how to carry yourself. And as a guy, you are also taught on how to carry yourself. So when there is a dysfunction in these two ways, people begin to have perception about the ladies. Let's say the guys begin to have perception about the lady or the ladies, and the ladies also do have
Perceptions.
But this shouldn't be an issue, because as believers, our focus shouldn't be on whether this lady is the modest or she is this type or not. The focus, if you are in a church and you are in a Bible-believing church, Hebrews 12:2 says that we focus on Jesus, looking unto Jesus, who is the author and finisher of our faith. So we are not that perfect enough to be that perfect couples in the church, or perfect ladies or perfect guys in the church. So if you can override this familiarity, you will have to focus on Hebrews 12:2. That's looking unto Jesus. Is the person you are looking at, is she also looking unto Jesus? If the person is not looking unto Jesus, then you know that your familiarity and your perception is true. But then if she's looking unto Jesus, where you are also looking
the same way,
her imperfections will later become perfect.
Wow. Because gradually you are feeding on the same word.
Yeah.
So you are being blessed, and then every weakness will be a strength.
Yes.
Wow, that's powerful. Thank you so much. Fantastic program. I'm enjoying. Kofi Amwa. Thank you so much. Please bring in your questions, contributions, comments. And let's remind you that we are streaming live on YouTube too. The Speech Chapel International. Facebook, our handle is Peace Chapel. And Instagram and Twitter is also Peace Chapel. Do well to be on these platforms. Like, subscribe, and follow when necessary. Thank you so much. What are some of the fun sides of marrying from a different church? Looking at it in comparison, what is the fun side of marrying from a different church and bringing into the church? Or Mrs. Akwa?
Well, if let's say you are in Peace Chapel, you've got somebody from ICGC. When you both emerge and you get married, when the person comes into your church, the person will study whatever activities run in the church. Probably if you are in a society in the church, find yourself in a group. And there's something that happens in their church that does not happen in
here.
yours, the person can chip in.
Can bring
if it is a very good thing that will help the spiritual growth and physical growth of the church, they will pick it up. So that becomes a fun side. Let's say when it comes to young couples,
for example.
yes, let's say with my immediate Pastor Enoch, the wife is from another church.
Okay.
So as we deliberate on issues, she comes in with interesting
Ideas.
things. Yes, so you can see
adds up.
Yes,
to the
so
church.
it's become a plus to us.
Church.
Yes.
Wow.
I think
Do you have
that
anything to add to that?
I wouldn't say fun, but I'd rather say it's learning. You get to learn different culture.
Wow.
Suppose you are all the same doctrine, but then the cross is like this. Bishop said people from here came to Jesus.
Okay.
People from here came to Jesus. People from here came to, and people from here also came to Jesus. So people are in different ways getting to Jesus. So if people are in different ways getting to Jesus, consider yours as one. Consider yours as one.
So one aspect.
Yes. So if you are married from a different church of the same doctrine, it's not about the fun, but you will be learning something different
from another angle.
You have not experienced.
So it becomes an advantage. Now let's also look at a situation where what we just gave is an example of when the other partner comes into the church.
Yes.
Then it becomes a plus. And usually it happens when the partner is a lady, so she comes in. So we have instances of people coming in to join the choir, to be a blessing to young couples, as you said. But what if it comes that the other partner joins the other? And that means there is a vacuum.
Yes, there's a subtraction.
There's a subtraction
from our growth as a church.
So that's why sometimes we push that if possible,
we should
marry from your church. Okay. I'm listening and watching live from Germany. Mavis, thank you so much. What is your view on today's topic? We are talking about marrying from your church, the pros and cons. So can we please list the pros that we've said about so far? So far, we've spoken about growth.
Okay. We're talking about the fostering of the spiritual unity.
Okay.
We've talking
upbringing of children.
Yeah. And then having the opportunity to serve together.
To serve together.
Yes.
And then also
the total building of individual. Then you're always, when it comes to the setup, your pastors know you. So sometimes it becomes very difficult for you to spring up some ugly behaviors.
Okay.
Because your pastor knows the man, he knows the woman.
Let's talk about that point.
Yes, it becomes very difficult for you to spring up. But where, let's say, the woman or the man comes in from a different church, not known to the pastor, he or she can come and misbehave and quietly leave. But where you are both in, you have grown up in the church.
So you have someone overseeing your marriage.
Yes. So I cannot easily come up and show up any bad behavior. You understand? Yeah. Okay.
Do you have anything to add?
Yeah. It also gives you a shared experience. That's like our shepherd here. The husband works in a different department, and she also works in a different organization.
Okay.
Let me use organization. But when we come to church, the husband is taking a part of the church service. She's also taking a part, and the children are also taking a part. So, in as much as during the week, we go to various or different places from Monday to Saturday, working on different agendas.
Projects and stuff. But when we come to church,
it gives us the opportunity to share experiences from various walks of life.
Wow.
And we do all those together in the church.
In the church, and it makes it very interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
And when it comes to the moral aspects of the children, there are some churches who have certain doctrines. Let's say when it comes to this homosexuality and stuff, there are some doctrines who accept it.
They accept, they don't
Yes.
frown on it.
So when it comes to the moral aspect, when you are all from the same doctrine, you understand my church frowns on this. My church does not accept me to wear earring as a guy.
Okay.
So you see, it brings up the moral aspect, the value of the moral aspect of the children are easily monitored. But where there are different doctrines,
Okay.
if the woman or man is against it, one party feels uncomfortable, the other party feels uncomfortable. So how are you going to bring the children up? But when the doctrine is the same.
It's the same. It's easy for all of you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Let me read a few comments from our lovely viewers. Bishop Brian Michael Adolfo says, good program. The only challenges of marrying from different church is largely doctrinal differences. So before you marry someone outside your church, check the spiritual compatibility. Wow, great. So that is saying, check the spiritual compatibility. Are you on the same level? So before you marry someone outside your church, check the spiritual compatibility. So I like the examples both of you gave, that you brought your partners into the church for them to at least feed on what you are, the same source you are also feeding on. So at a point you become on the same level. You understand what is going on in the other church. So, okay. And Nana Amoforiwa Mensa says, I think sometimes people's noisiness deters people from dating in their churches, even when they are in connection. Noisiness. Noisiness in the sense that they talk too much. Okay, so that's a point she has given. She says that people's noisiness deters people from dating them in the church, even if there is connection. Wow, that's a powerful point. So please, don't be too noisy. Bishop says, if a lady doesn't believe in tongues and a guy, if a lady's church doesn't believe in tongues and the guy's church doesn't believe in tongues, that marriage will have some, so I think he's trying to say that if one party's church doesn't believe in tongues and another party's church believes in tongues, then that marriage will have some challenges. So what I would suggest is, if anyone decides to marry outside from his church, check the doctrinal differences before you get married.
Yeah.
You want to say something about
that? Like we said earlier on in the when marrying from the church, my sister said it fosters their spiritual unity. So because you are all in the same church, having the same doctrine. So if you are going out, just like as our bishop is saying, you need to consider these two things: the doctrine and the how you
are compatible.
Yeah, spiritually.
Thank you very much, Bishop. Joycelyn Maglo says, listening live. Okay. Nana Savin says, wherever you find your love, whether in the same church or not, you need to stay focused as a Christian. You have to let the marriage work for both of you. I know of a couple who, based on understanding, and have decided to go to the other's church when they agree. So you have to know the belief of your partner, and if you are okay, go ahead. Okay, so he's talking about belief where, for example, both parties or both couples are from different churches, but they agree as a couple as to where to go at a particular time. So like for this church, Peace Chapel, we run 2 services. So you can decide to come for first service here and go to the other church for second service.
Yeah.
But I have a problem with that.
Okay.
In the sense that, let's say, 2 different setup, 2 different doctrines. Which are you going to practice?
Okay. That is if there are doctrinal differences.
Yes. But if it's the same, then probably you can decide on that. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So, thank you so much. This is getting very interesting. Okay. Whatever Aidan again says, sometimes people marry outside the church because they don't find their match.
It's true.
This is serious.
It's true sometimes. It's true.
Why can't you find your match? At that times, many girls are looking up to one guy in the church. Oh, Charlie. To avoid confusion, the guy may look outside. But in many cases, people come to the church already hooked up. Hey. So, Pastor Aidan has touched on a couple of points. And sometimes, I want to read his point again. Sometimes people marry outside the church because they don't find their match. That is one. They don't find the qualities they want in the person.
In the church. Yes. Then sometimes too, in our local church, we talk too much.
Everywhere
you pass, they are monitoring you. So it becomes difficult for you to have your private life.
For example, you've heard that before this person comes to you,
there was this person. He was with this person. He was with this person. Probably that compatibility wasn't there. So sometimes it becomes very difficult for you to marry in your local church, because I go to Enoch, I don't find what
you want. It
yes,
doesn't go well.
It doesn't go well. So probably I have to move to Mickey.
Hey.
It doesn't go well. Then I have to So you could see, you couldn't find what you want. But the house, those sitting back outside will have to say, Apola Weje,
so even some of the comments will make you even
So to prevent that, let me go outside there and do my thing and bring them. So sometimes that is the problem. People make noise a lot. They are monitoring your private life. That is the problem. Meanwhile, we are in the church to listen to the doctrine and practice it.
And also, we are all here to be healed in a way.
Yeah.
So if there are any weaknesses, we come to the church to be strengthened. Pastor Enoch.
Oh, okay. I think it's not always the case that because of people, that people will want to watch outside the church. There are some people, they are now picking up in faith. They already have their own weaknesses, and they might come across a lady, maybe he thinks the lady is enough spiritual to help him grow spiritually. But then when you get closer to such a person, you realize that you are far ahead of the person. But when you meet the person in church, you see her to be on a spiritual pedigree, you are not there. So when you meet such people in the church, 1, 2, 3, 4, it's kind of convince you to now look elsewhere, because the society is not only about it's not only about the church, that it's an agent of where you can meet your beloved. So you watch your church, your school, your area or your environment, or maybe if an association.
And then again, the focus is not based on that. The focus is the person a child of God?
Sure.
Yes.
Sure.
Is the person spiritually compatible with you? Yeah. Are you on the same level?
Yeah.
So that is, thank you very much. Other times, many girls are looking up to one guy in the church.
It's true sometimes. They look at them.
I just remember something.
Especially when the guy is a flashy type.
To avoid confusion, the guy may just look outside. That's all. That's all. And then it is not going to cause any further confusion, because all the ladies are just voting on that particular person. And it brings issues.
That is very true.
It's true. It's true.
Hey. But in many cases, people come to the church already hooked up, and we don't know about it. So most people also come to the church already having someone in mind. Probably met them in school, at workplaces, in town. But you may be also praying towards this person, and then this person is already hooked up.
Let me add this to it.
Okay.
When you meet, it's good to marry from the church.
Okay.
It's very important to marry from the church, especially the church of your birth, or the church that you
grew up.
Have, and you have had all your doctrine. But what the mistake most guys or the ladies do is because of what other people will say about them. the perception.
The perception of people.
So they are not able to make the right decision. What's the right decision? When you meet somebody in your church, the first thing to do, aside your own investigation, is to introduce the person to the leaders of the church. So in that case, the leaders knows almost everybody unless the person is new.
Is new. Even with that, they try and get to know them.
So the leaders, they know almost everybody. So for you to have a fair or a clear idea of the person you are considering, you must first introduce the person to your leader. And then you'll be able to have some information. If it is okay for you to go by, then the decision lies on you, because you can't be imposed to marry somebody.
Wow, that's a very good point. So viewers, if you are watching, Youth Pastor Enoch is saying that it's very important to marry from your church, if possible. And if you do get a proposal or think of going forward with someone in your church, do also let your leader know about it. That is your pastor or your bishop to know about it. And then they will help you, give you the confidence or the advice as to how to go about it. And then I'm sure it's going to be powerful. And so if, for example, if you are in a church and you meet someone you want to go out with, but talking about the noisiness or what people talk about, and you hear these things, how are you supposed to manage it? Are you supposed to go forward in spite of what people are saying, or you need to listen to them? Because I know of instances where, because of what people are saying, they drop the person and then just go in for another person.
It depends on you, how you go about things that you hear about yourself. So there are some people, they are like but there are some people, it gets to them too serious that they can't even look again, or watch a lady or a guy in their church. Me per se, at some point in time, I wasn't looking at any lady in my church, because I was the type that loved to have fun. I love to have fun.
You like to go out?
Yeah, I love to have fun. It was there. It was there. And if I should pick you or be planning or be in a courtship with you, maybe that thing alone might put you off.
Because you like having fun.
Because I previously I love having fun. So I wouldn't be maybe giving you that full attention of let's focusing on church activities.
At that time.
Yeah. So considering a lady as at that time in my church was a very difficult thing for me to do. Yeah. So sometimes it depends on the person in question. It depends on the person in question, not the person he or she is considering or the person he wants to accept. No, it depends on you, how it gets to you, or how you perceive of what people say about you. If you focus on what God says about you, and you ignore what people say, or say and you know that your integrity, you are holding on to your integrity. Matthew 5:7. Your yes is your yes, and your no is your no. And you are living by it. You are good to go. You have no issue with what people say about you.
What you just said reminded me of a quote Bishop usually says, that if you mind your position, you lose your position. So as you said, just focus on what God says about you and focus on developing yourself better, and not what people say. But then again, I think that some advice should go to people who usually talk about people too much, because we are all growing in church. And if you've heard something, limit the way you talk about it. People talk too much in church, and even deters people from staying in church or marrying in the church. Nana Mawuswa says, because of noisiness, most of us would prefer going out, so we don't get our issues all over. You see the mindset? And then Kofi Amon says, most of the girls don't value us. That's why. That's another point. he's saying that most of the girls don't value them in the church. Most of the ladies look down. Mrs. Aqua, what do you have to say about it?
That is where we come to the familiarity. You have grown up with the person. You know the in and out of the person. So sometimes it becomes difficult patching up with the person. But where you do not know the person, you now go to understudy the person. Then you weigh both sides. There are qualities you want in a man. Put the spirituality aside. That is the main core. The spirituality is the main core. But when it comes to other things, probably the guys in the church may have the spiritual aspect. But when it comes to other things, because when it comes to marriage, it's not only about spirituality. It comes with a lot of things under it. Yes. So if the person in my local church is only spiritual, and when it comes to other things, say leadership, role playing,
having fun,
that person
is
not so. It becomes very difficult for you to compart. But where maybe I go out there, I find that person that has not all, but majority of what I want. Because marriage is meant for us to enjoy. So where I come to my local church, and the person is solely spiritual. Until she, or maybe
even appearance cries, not
so sometimes that is what pushes the young ladies to go out there to fish.
Wow. Please, before you come in, let me read another thing. You know, some men play too much with the ladies. Someone even called them my wife. So when they are serious proposing crowd, the ladies think it's their normal vibe. So they have no choice than to go outside the church. It's true.
To add to what my sister said, it's not always the case about the familiarity.
Okay.
I think it's not good to look down on anybody who comes to you in your church, or even if it's outside your church. It's not good to look down on the person. We are all not born on the same day, or the fingers are not the same. But for you not to look down on the person, rather look at the person's vision. What is the person focusing on? The vision of the person is the most important thing for you to look at. You don't look down upon people because you are in a university and the person is an SHS graduate, or because you have a profession doing and the person is now picking up. No, you don't look down upon such people. You rather look at their vision and how they carry themselves to that vision. Yeah.
Wow, that's powerful. Thank you so much. I believe today we've all shared our views and we've learned a lot of things. God bless you so much for coming on today's program, and thank you so much to our viewers. You've been wonderful. Thank you for your contributions, your comments, and it's been wonderful having you on Family Matters. Marrying from your church, the pros and cons. I would like you to give us a short advice in a sentence or two. Mrs. Aqua and Pastor Enoch, before we go, in conclusion.
When it comes to marrying from your local church, sometimes it's the best. In the sense that you have the same doctrine when it comes to the raising up of the kids. It becomes the best. The call to spiritual prayer, it becomes great. Then the growth of the church as a body, it grows when you all would stay, because when the man and the woman stays in the church, they marry, they give birth, the children also stay. But where there's subtraction, the woman is taken away and no addition is coming, sometimes it becomes a hell of a problem. Then there's that harmony and comfortability. The monitoring of both spouses too becomes very easy. So sometimes when we marry from the church, it's the best.
Thank you.
Marrying from the church is always the best. And it has always been the best.
Okay.
But that does not end there. In as much as it's the best, when looking outside, the main thing to look at is the focus of whether you are looking inside or you are looking outside. What should your focus be on? Like I said in
Hebrews 12 to looking unto Jesus, the author and the finisher of our faith. Very good. So what are we looking at? We are looking at the doctrine and the fostering of the spiritual unity to marry in your church, or outside your church before you look at any other importance. So for me, that's it.
Bravo, thank you so much. But Children say some of the ladies make themselves too high. Even to talk to them is a problem. So the ladies, please come down to the level so that we can be easily communicated with. Okay, thank you so much for staying tuned with us. This has been Family Matters, marrying from your church. And I want to remind you of tomorrow's service. It's going to be wonderful. First and second service. Do all to come to Peace Chapel International, and you'll be a blessing. We'll come back next week with something very interesting, better, and very educative on family matters. So stay tuned. Thank you so much. Bye.
Amazing work. God will not be defeated, and he cannot be defeated. Jesus went to church. He read the Bible, and somebody beat him. You are busy. Are you the president? Even the president goes to church. So when we meet in the house of God, we meet with divinity. That is why when you come to church regularly and you have that kind of heart for Jesus, you can attract his presence. It doesn't matter my prevailing condition. God is my king, and I'll be with him forever.
Amazing Word with Bishop Brian Michael Adolfo now shows on Sunny TV every Saturday from 8:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. Do join us as